The prophets and apostles of the LDS Church are frequently criticized by Christians on account of their teachings. Christians claim that one of the reasons the LDS Church leaders are untrustworthy is because they teach things that are contrary to the Bible, and they even teach things contrary to one another. Latter-day Saints respond by saying that much of the teachings of the LDS prophets and apostles are not considered official doctrine and are therefore not problematic. Mormons will commonly claim that their leaders are merely expressing their own personal thoughts, opinions, and perspectives on things, not actually determining church doctrine. Yet Christians continue to point to these teachings as evidence that the LDS Church leaders are untrustworthy. Why is it that Christians take issue with teachings that aren't considered official? Should we trust the LDS prophets and apostles? Number 1, consider what the Bible says about prophets and revelation. Prophets in the Old Testament would often preface their words by saying, "Thus saith the Lord." This indicated that what a prophet was speaking was the word of the Lord, as though God himself came down from heaven and spoke it. When a prophet authoritatively instructed God's people, his words were binding on them. To reject the word of the prophet was to reject the word of the Lord. Because of just how significant the words of the prophets were, these prophets were held to an extremely strict standard for their teaching. God often judged the false prophets of Israel, who presumed to speak words on behalf of God when God had never even sent them. These so-called prophets said they were from God, but they spoke things that God had never commissioned them to say, and thus they were deemed false prophets and rightly judged. In contrast, God prevented true and genuine prophets from ever persistently teaching falsehoods. We see this exemplified by Samuel in the Old Testament. The Bible tells us, "And Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fall to the ground." We ought to take every word a prophet says seriously. If a prophet ever authoritatively teaches something false, then we can be certain that that prophet is not from God. Number 2, consider how the LDS Church uses the idea of official doctrine. LDS prophets have built up a kind of plausible deniability by this idea of official doctrine. Official doctrine is simply teachings that the LDS Church formally declares to be doctrinal. But this results in these prophets being able to teach blatantly false things without being held accountable for them, because those teachings are merely considered not official. The history of the LDS Church is rife with prophets and apostles teaching different, contradictory things. But none of these things are considered a problem, because none of those teachings were deemed official. LDS prophets of the past have taught things that are considered by the modern LDS Church to be grave heresies. But this is not what the Bible teaches that we should expect from genuine prophets who speak on behalf of God. Unlike Samuel of the Old Testament, so many of their words fall to the ground and are cast aside by later prophets. Number 3, consider what Jesus taught. Jesus warned us to watch out for false teachers because many false prophets have gone out into the world. But how can we discern if someone claiming to be a prophet is actually a false prophet? A wolf in sheep's clothing? Many Latter-day Saints claim that they have a strong testimony that the LDS prophets are true prophets. But 1 John warns us to not trust every spirit, and that this kind of spiritual confirmation could have been given to us by an evil spirit. We cannot rely on our feelings and experiences to determine or discern if a prophet is a true prophet. False teaching is bad fruit, and we're commanded by Jesus to inspect the fruit or the teachings of a prophet. Someone may look a lot like a follower of Jesus. They might have lots of good deeds and have helped lots of people. But if they teach things that are contrary to what God has already revealed, then they are shown to be false teachers. Jesus did not tell his people to test a teaching based on whether or not it was arbitrarily declared an official doctrine. He commanded us to test every word that comes from the mouth of a prophet. In conclusion, believers of Jesus are rightly judged for their works and their words. They are held accountable for their teachings, even if their teachings are not deemed official. This is why James says, "Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness." Our standards for those who claim to be prophets should be even higher, because a prophet claims to speak on behalf of God himself. Church leaders are called to hold firm to the trustworthy word as taught, so that he may be able to give instruction in sound doctrine, and also to rebuke those who contradict it. A church leader must not even allow false teaching in their church, let alone teach it themselves. Jesus even condemns and threatens churches who persistently allow false teaching to exist in their midst. Just because a teaching isn't deemed official doesn't mean that it isn't false teaching. LDS prophets have taught things contrary to one another and contrary to the Bible. They've hidden behind this invented idea of official doctrine and should be rightly rejected. Followers of Jesus should not trust the LDS prophets and apostles because their teachings demonstrate that they are not of God.